צדיק וישרי לב שמחה עוז הרוח לצדיק וישרי לב שמחה עוז הרוח לצדיק וישרי לב שמחה וישרי לב שמחה עוז הרוח לצדיק וישרי לב שמחה וישרי לב שמחה ay 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 ray 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 עוז הרוח לצדיק וישרי לב שמחה צדיק וישרי לב שמחה.
Welcome. There are days when we seek things for ourselves and measure failure by what we do not gain. On Shabbat, we seek not to acquire but to share. There are days when we exploit nature as if it were horn aplenty that can never be exhausted. On Shabbat, we stand in wonder before the mystery of creation. There are days when we act as if we cared nothing for the rights of others. On Shabbat, we remember that justice is our duty and a better world our goal. So embrace Shabbat, day of rest, day of wonder, day of peace. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. My name is Ina Horn, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to Anshe Ameth Memorial Temple. As we join together to bring this week to a close, let us take the opportunity to take a deep breath and welcome the peace and tranquility of Shabbat and to let go of the things that don't matter. Now let us feel the warmth of Shabbat as we invite Sarah Levine up to the bima to light the Shabbat candles and lead us in the blessings that may be found on pages 2 and 3 of your prayer book. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to kindle the light of Shabbat.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
We continue with Lechadodi on page 20.
Lechadodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. 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 Shamor v'zachor b'dibor echad, ishmi'anu el hamyuchad. Adonai echad u'shemo echad, לשם ולתפארת ולתהילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה, כי היא מקור הברכה, מראש מקדם נסוכה, סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. לך דודי דודי, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. מקדש מלך עיר מלוכה, קומי צאי מתוך ההפכה, רב לך שבט בעמק הבכה, והוא יחמול עלייך חמלה. לך דודי, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. התנערי מעפר קומי, לבשי בגדי תפארתך עמי, על יד בן ישי בית הלחמי, קרבה אל נפשי גאלה. לך דודי, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. התעוררי, התעוררי, כי באורך קומי אורי, אורי אורי שיר דברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לא תבושי ולא תקלמי, מה תשתוכחי ומה תהמי בך יחסו. עניי עמי ונבנתה עיר אל תילה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. והיו למשיסה שוסייך ורחקו, כה מבלייך יסיס עלייך אלוהייך, כמשוש חתן על כלה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. ימין ושמאל תפרוצי ואת אדוני תעריצי על יד איש. בן פרצי ונשמחה ונגילה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. בואי ושלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצולה תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי חלה, בואי חלה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
The Chatzi Kaddish on page 26.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה. בעלמא דברה חירותי וימליך מלכותי. בחיי חון וביומי חון ובחיי כל בית ישראל. בעגלה בעגלה ובזמן קריב וימרו אמן. יהי שמרה במברך לעלם ולעלמי עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה. תושבחתה ונחמתה דאמירן בעלמא ויאמרו Amen.
We rise now in body or in spirit for the Baruch Hu, page 28.
Yai dai da dai, yai dai da dai, yai dai 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 dai. את אדוני המבורך. ברכו את אדוני המבורך. ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד. ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד. יאי די די די, יאי די די די, יאי די 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 די, יאי די די די, יאי די די די, יאי די 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 די.
You may be seated. We read from the top of page 31 together. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars, creator of the tide of time and light. Your guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set your course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai Hama'ariv Aravim.
אהבת עולם בית ישראל, עמך אהבת, תורה ומצוות, חוקים ומשפטים, אותנו לימדת. אהבת עולם בית ישראל, עמך אהבת, תורה ומצוות, חוקים ומשפטים, אותנו לימדת. על כן אדוני אלוהינו, בשוכבנו ובקומנו, ובשוכבנו ובקומנו נשיח בחוקיך, ונשמח בדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך, ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד. כי הם חיינו חיינו באורך ימינו, ובהם נגה יומם ולילה. ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל. שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. 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 ברוך שם כבוד, שם כבוד מלכותו לעולם ועד. ברוך שם כבוד, שם כבוד מלכותו לעולם ועד. שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד.
Please be seated.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם, אמת.
Bottom of page 39, we read responsively. In a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us the courage to say, Adonai, there is one God in heaven and earth. The high heavens declare your glory. May earth reveal your justice and love. From bondage in Egypt we were delivered. At Sinai we bound ourselves to your way. Inspired by prophets and instructed by sages,
time and
again we overcame oppressive forces. Though our failings are many and our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark ages your vision of a world redeemed. Let us continue to work for the day when the nations shall be one and at peace. Then shall we rejoice as Israel did, singing on the shores of the sea.
Yada die 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 yada die 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 yada die 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 yada die 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 yada die 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 yada die die da 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 yada die 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 yada die 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 yada die 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 da da yada die 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 da da die 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 yai dai dai da 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 dai mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai mi kamocha nedar ba'kodesh nora tehilot osefele malchutcha ra'u banecha bokeh yam lifnei Moshe מלכותך ראו בניך, בוקע ים לפני מרים. ידה די 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 ידה די 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 ידה די 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 ידה די 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 ידה די 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 יי די 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 Anu ve'ameru Adonai yimloch le'olam le'olam va'ed yada dai 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 yada dai 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 yada dai 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 yada dai 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 dai
We continue with Hashkivenu on page 42.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom, leshalom. Vehamidenu shomreinu lechayim. Ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha, ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha. Amen. Shelter us beneath thy wings, O Adonai. Guard us from all harmful things, O Adonai. Keep us safe throughout the night, till we wake with morning's light. Teach us, God, wrong from right. Amen. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom, leshalom. Vehamidenu shomreinu lechayim. Ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha, ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha.
Baruch atah Adonai, hapores sukat shalom aleinu, ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim. Blessed are you, Adonai, guardian of Israel, whose shelter of peace is spread over us, over all your people Israel, and over Jerusalem.
Yismechu v'malechutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat, v'korei oneg Shabbat. Yismechu v'malechutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat, v'korei oneg Shabbat. Am v'karashei, Mekadoshei Shevi Shabbat, Kulam Yisbe'u, Bit'angu Bituvecha Shabbat, Shabbat Yisbe'u, V'malechutecha, Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat, V'korei oneg Shabbat, Yisbe'u, V'malechutecha, Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat, v'korei oneg Shabbat. V'hashvi, ratzita bo v'kidashto Shabbat. Chemdat yamim, oto karata Shabbat. Yismechu v'malechutecha, Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat, v'korei oneg Shabbat. Yismechu v'malechutecha, Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat, v'korei oneg Shabbat. Ma'aseh Bereshit Shabbat, Zecher, Zecher, Lema'aseh Bereshit Shabbat, Yismechu b'malechutecha, Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat, V'korei Oneg Shabbat, Yismechu b'malechutecha, Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat, V'korei Oneg A thought has blown the marketplace away. There is a song on the wind and joy in the trees. Shabbat arrives in the world, scattering a song in the silence of the night, and eternity utters a day, and eternity utters a day. Adonai Svatai Tiftach Ufi Yagite Hilatecha. Adonai Svatai Tiftach Ufi Yagite Hilatecha. A thought has blown the marketplace away. There is a song on the wind and joy in the trees. Shabbat arrives in the world, scattering a song in the silence of the night, and eternity utters a day, and eternity utters a day. Adonai Svatai Tiftach Ufi Yagite Hilatecha. Adonai Svatai Tiftach Ufi Yagite Hilatecha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avoteinu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Vekonei Hakol, Vezocher Chasdei Avot ve'imahot, Umevi Geula livnei bneihem, Lema'an Shemo be'ahava, Melech Hozer u'Moshia u'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'ezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayeh hakol atah Rab lehoshia, Mashiv haruach u'morid hagashem, Mechalkel chayim bechesed, Mechayeh hakol berachamim rabim, Somech noflim verofei cholim, umatir asurim, umekayem emunato לשני עפר, מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישוע, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש.
We continue now with silent prayer, whether those are the words on your heart or the words on the page. You can look to the book for reference through page 63. When you are ready to continue, please be seated.
Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel ve'imru Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel ve'imru amen. Ya-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la. Oh, say shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. tevel ve'imru amen. Yandarai rai 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 yadarai darai rai rai yadarai darai rai rai yandarai rai 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 yadarai darai rai rai yadarai darai rai rai yandarai rai 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 yadarai darai rai rai yadarai darai rai rai yandarai rai 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 yadarai darai rai rai ve'imru amen.
I learned a very important lesson about love and miscommunication on my first trip to Israel. When I was on Birthright, the summer after my second year of college, my friend Emma fell head over heels for an Israeli soldier on our trip named Yonatan. On one of the rare occasions that we managed to pry the two of them apart, we packed as many girls as we could fit into a single hotel room and asked her for all the details. She could not stop smiling as she talked about the first time that he held her hand and all the little things she adored about him. And then she dropped the bombshell. Last night he said that he loves me. And I know I've only known him for a week, but who cares? I feel it too. I said it back. I love him. Oh, honey. As the end of our trip grew near, Emma became determined to stay in Israel with Yonatan. Our trip leaders persistently reminded her that it does not work like that. If you're on a tourist visa to Israel, you need to have a flight returning on file. She could extend her trip, but she could not stay indefinitely. She would recognize what they were saying, but she always had a glimmer of mischief in her eye. The tearful day finally came, and Emma was dropped off at the airport as our trip leaders kept a careful eye on her. She stepped off the bus and ran. She made a break straight for the line of cabs at arrivals and was pursued doggedly on foot by two exhausted trip leaders. They finally caught her, and as they were physically dragging her back to departures, she started to laugh. She said, "You can't send me home. I threw my passport out the window on the highway." Our trip leader, Hadass, later recounted this story to me with an exasperated sigh. This is where the lesson comes in, and it's surprisingly more linguistic than it is about the heart. In English, we have two different levels of affection, like and love. In Hebrew, there is one word, and that word is ahava. If you like a friend, if you like someone romantically, if you like a flavor of ice cream, the feeling that you feel is ahava. And that word translates to love. If you speak English, the words "I love you" are associated with a deep, deep connection and likely indicate to you some kind of a future with the person in question. If you're a native Hebrew speaker, love is a little more casual. Emma and Yonatan's star-crossed ahava, if you will, was new to us as Americans, but Hadass had seen this happen on almost every Birthright trip she led. The Israeli soldiers would always say "I love you" to the American students, then the American would get all swept up in the romance and moony-eyed, and it wasn't necessarily malicious, Hadass explained. The soldiers' intent was likely to express affection and genuine connection, but the impact created a higher expectation than he was realistically going to meet. Thankfully, Emma did make it home from Israel that day. She had just hidden her passport in her suitcase. She didn't actually throw it out the window. And as for Emma and Yonatan, they broke up a couple weeks after Emma went home, and she's married to somebody else now. Love is often seen as the pinnacle of human experience, transcending our flawed nature as human beings. If you've ever been to a Christian wedding, you've inevitably heard this well-trodden text: Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. I'll stop reading from the New Testament on the Bema. It is a beautiful sentiment about love, but it's not the whole picture. Love relies on relationships, communication, expectations, all of which are things that people struggle with. Love is going to mean different things to different people, even when they speak the same language. In this week's Torah portion, Toldot, we see a more difficult side of love. In Toldot's most iconic story, Isaac and Rebekah welcome twins into their family, and there's an uneven distribution of love between the parents and their children. Isaac loves their son Esau, and Rebekah loves Jacob. But when it comes time for Isaac to bless one of the children on his deathbed, Rebekah tricks a blind, sick Isaac into blessing her beloved child instead of his. Love is critical to the action of our story. Of all the times in Genesis that we see the Hebrew root for love, aleph, he, vet, 1/3 of them happen in Toldot alone. But there's just one use of aleph, he, vet that I want to draw your attention to because it is atypical. Rivka ohevet et Yaakov. Rebekah loves Jacob. As a modern reader, that may sound pretty ordinary, a mother loving her son, but the verb form of ahava is almost exclusively reserved for men. This is one of 2 times in the entire Torah that a woman loves anyone. Unfortunately, given the context of our Torah is a patriarchal power structure, this does make sense. What men love, like, prefer, enjoy, all of which could be translated to ahava, are often defining character motivations for the key movers in our stories. But out of every female character in the Bible who could love, Rebekah loves Jacob, and Michal, who we don't meet until 1 Samuel, loves David. For both Michal and Rebekah, love is not just a preference, not just a feeling. It is a precursor to subverting power structures. Michal is King Saul's daughter. Saul, as her father and the king, is supposed to be in power. Saul wants to kill David, but Michal loves David, so she tricks Saul's messengers and lets David escape. Michal's will wins over Saul's because of love. Similarly, Isaac, as the head of the household, is supposed to be the one in power, but Rebekah tricks her blind, sick husband out of his final will. She leaves her husband and other son sobbing because to her, her love for Jacob is more important. This love is not patient. This love is not kind. This is chuck your passport out the window and run love. Forget the consequences love. Burn bridges and buck authority love. Rebekah loves Jacob, and in the name of that love, she essentially rips her family apart. After Esau discovers that Jacob has received the blessing meant for him, he becomes so angry that Rebekah fears for Jacob's life, and she tells Jacob to run. We do not see Rebekah and Jacob interact again in the Torah. This may actually be the last time that she sees him. Isaac dies. Esau leaves as well. This is the end of their family as a unit. But even if she never sees him again, Rebekah's love for Jacob lives on in him. Half the time that love is mentioned in the book of Genesis, it comes from Jacob. It's beautiful that Jacob shows such a capacity for love, a love that he learned from Rebekah. But what kind of love is Jacob's love? Is it envious? Does it boast? Is it proud? I would say yes. Jacob's love is a little rough around the edges, just like the love modeled for him by Rebekah. Just like his parents, Jacob plays favorites. Among his 4 wives, he loves Rachel the most and allows his other wife, Leah, to vie for his affection in vain. Among his many children, his preference for Joseph is so clear that all his other children resent Joseph and conspire against him. Love is finite. Love is scarce. Love has sharp edges. I do not mean to discredit the value of Rebekah's love. Her love made Jacob a different kind of man than his father and grandfather before him. Let me repeat, half of the time love is present in Genesis, it comes from Jacob. Abraham is associated with ahava once. Isaac is said to love another person twice. And Jacob is associated with Ahava 7 times. Jacob loves better. Jacob loves more because he was loved by Rebekah. And Rebekah did not exist in a vacuum. Think of all the other women who could have loved in Torah, whose love was never mentioned. Rebekah's love needed to have teeth, needed to be sharp, just to be heard. Rebekah's love for her child is stronger than the social order she's meant to obey, stronger than her need to be with her child in person, stronger than her love for any other person in her life, so strong that it nourished her child into a loving husband and father. Rebekah's love also broke her family, also taught her child that true love plays favorites. Rebekah's love is complex. It helped Jacob and it hurt him. The strength and consequences of Rebekah's love both matter. Love is not just lost in translation from Hebrew to English, it is lost in translation from person to person. And if we are going to send our love out into the world, we must be able to understand that we are just people, and the love we have to give is a reflection of the love that we have received, for better and for worse. To love truly, to love deeply, we must be able to confront the times when our best intentions hurt others. Love should not be a reason to cover over or excuse our mistakes. It should be a reason to illuminate them. If the pen were in my hands, I would not rewrite the way that Rebekah loved Jacob. I would not change her choices. But maybe I would add a little midrash, a moment for an older Rebekah to reckon with the harm she caused, with compassion for her younger self, and apologize to her sons. Perhaps we would see Rebekah on her own deathbed, shedding a tear for Isaac, and this time find enough love in her heart to bless her sons equally. Love struggles with patience. Love is not always kind. If love was never envious, never boasted, was never proud, love would not be human. Love is messy. Love is necessary. And when it's at its best, love holds itself accountable. Shabbat Shalom. On this Shabbat Eve, we join together as one congregation to celebrate the joy of life and living. We now turn our thoughts to those in our community for whom life has become precarious because of health or hospitalization. O God of healing, in our hearts we name those who are facing illness or pain. We join our prayers together with the prayers of those that love them. Give them renewed comfort and courage. Strengthen in them the healing powers you place in all of us. Guide the hands and hearts of those entrusted with their care. May the knowledge of your love and ours bring hope to them and their families. May they find even greater strength because our prayers are linked to theirs. May the one who blessed our ancestors bless those in need of healing. May God swiftly send them a complete renewal of body and spirit. And now our announcements. As always, you can check our This Week at AEMT email for more information about programs and login information. In 2 weeks, after a year and a half of waiting, we are celebrating the Cantor's installation. That will be November 19th at Friday evening services, beginning at 7:30 p.m. The festivities continue the next day with a concert on Saturday, November 20th at 7:30 p.m. Become a sponsor of the event or purchase tickets on our website or give the office a call. The first program for our Keepers of Jewish Excellence series for the season is coming up on Monday, November 22nd at 7:30 p.m. Our guest speaker will be Batya Unger-Sargon, featuring her book, Bad News: How Woke Media is Undermining Democracy. You can sign up on our website for the event or become a sponsor for Keepers of Jewish Excellence as well. Please rise for the Aleinu on page 282.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומונים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא.
Let the time not be distant, O God, when all shall turn to you in love, when corruption and evil shall give way to integrity and goodness, when superstition shall no longer enslave the mind, nor idolatry the blind eye. O may all, created in your image, become one in spirit and one in friendship, forever united in your service. Then shall your realm be established on earth, and the word of your prophet fulfilled. Adonai will reign forever and ever.
ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו ושמו אחד ושמו אחד.
With hearts that ache and are saddened, we name now those whom death has recently taken from us, those whose families are observing Shloshim. Marilyn Weiler, wife of Morris, mother of Adrian and Stephen, mother-in-law of Jeffrey, grandmother of Jennifer and Thomas. We remember Bernard Levi, husband of Doris, father of Wendy and Sharon, father-in-law of Brian, grandfather of David, Lynn, Alan, Rachel, Todd, Michael, Heidi, Lori, and Todd, great-grandfather of Chris, Brianna, Lewis, Sadie, Jordan, Ethan, Claire, Jenna, and Dana. We remember Lenny Struminger, wife of Jay, mother of Ronald and Janine, mother-in-law of Marla and Alex, grandmother of Jared, Phoebe, Sarah, Jonah, and Jessica. We remember Edith Bronstein Magaziner, mother of Robert, Jonathan, and Diane, mother-in-law of Cheryl, Hillary, and Mark, grandmother of Sarah, Allison, Noah, Mayan, Leah, and Benjamin. We remember Vivian Greenberg, sister of Carl, mother of Robert, Jill, and Bruce, stepmother of Bill, Sue, Michael, and Andrea, mother-in-law of Emmanuel, Jay, Kim, Joyce, Alan, Helene, and Michael, grandmother of Sophia, Avery, Peter, Mark, Kaylee, Allison, Lauren, Amy, Elise, Alex, Harrison, Maxwell, Sam, and Rachel. On this Shabbat, we also recall those dear ones who died at this season in years past, and whose names we record with love in our service booklet this evening. Their names are forever bound to our hearts and are permanently inscribed throughout our building. If you are joining us tonight online to say Kaddish for a loved one, please either say their name aloud at home or type in the comments section on YouTube, Facebook, or our temple's streaming site so that we can all lift up the names of your loved ones together. And if you are here in the sanctuary to say Kaddish for a loved one, please say their names as my eyes pass you. Zikronam livracha. May all their names and memories be for a blessing. I invite all mourners, if able, to rise for Kaddish, Kaddish Yatom, or Mourner's Kaddish, in body or in spirit, on page 294. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shmei Rabbah, ve'alma divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayachon uv'yomechon uv'chayei dekol beit Yisrael, Bagala uvizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehe shmei Rabbah mivarach le'alam ulmei almaya. Yitbarak v'yishtabak v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. V'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei dekudusha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata. Damiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehe shlama Rabbah min shamaya. V'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Osei shalom b'imromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen.
Osei shalom b'imromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'yimeru amen. We close close our service today with the singing of Ein Keloheinu, found on page 322. We rise. Ein Keloheinu, Ein Kadonenu, Ein Kemalkeinu, Ein Kemoshienu, Micheloheinu, Michadonenu, Michemalkeinu, Michemoshienu, Nodel Eloheinu, Nodel Adonenu, Nodel Malkeinu, Nodel Moshienu, Baruch Eloheinu, Baruch Adonenu, Baruch Malkeinu, Baruch Moshienu, Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu Adonenu, Atahu Malkeinu, Atahu Moshienu, Ein Keloheinu, Ein Kadonenu, Ein Kemalkeinu, Ein Kemoshienu. Please join me in Kiddush. Vayehi erev, vayehi boker, yom hashishi. Vayichulu hashamayim v'haaretz v'chol tzevam. Vayichal Elohim bayom hashvi melachto asher asa. Vayishbot bayom hashvi mikol melachto asher asa. Vayivarech Elohim et yom hashvi. Vayikadesh oto ki bo Shabbat mikol melachto. Asher bara Elohim la'asot. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kirishanu b'mitzvotav v'ratza banu v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava uvratzon hinechilanu zikaron lemaaseh bereishit ki hu yom techila lemikrai kodesh zehicher letziat Mitzrayim kivanu bacharta ve'otanu kidashta mikol amim ve'shabbat kodshecha ve'ahava uvratzon hinachaltanu Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh hashavat. Amen. L'chaim.
You may be seated. Please join me now for Motzi and a few closing words. Would you look at that? No bag. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam
Hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen.
Wild Geese by Mary Oliver. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. Meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of the rain are moving across the landscapes, over the prairies and the deep trees, the mountains and the rivers. Meanwhile, the wild geese, high in the clean blue air, are heading home again. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over, announcing your place in the family of things. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.